What's going on, guys? This is Rob. If you guys enjoy my content, make sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that little bell so you never miss out on my sexy voice. Okay, so normally on Sundays, we cover Green Lantern and the X-Men, but we're not doing that today because this video is going to be better. So a lot of you guys really seem to enjoy the whole, these discussions about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? Like a lot of you guys really seem to enjoy these videos on like the Fantastic Four in the MCU or God help us, Sony in the MCU. This whole thing about how you would roll in the X-Men and all that kind of good stuff. And in this video, I wanted to talk about Wolverine for a second, right? I mean, we covered this to a degree in how we would roll the X-Men over into the MCU. But for me, I think we can all pretty much agree that when the X-Men are announced, because Marvel will announce it, when they come out and they have that huge press conference, like they did with the Phase 3 thing, and the crowd was screaming and everybody was going nuts when they were announcing the movies. And I watch that video at least once a week because it's the coolest video ever. I get so hyped watching that. I get so excited watching that. When they make that announcement, people are going to be like, all right, cool. Yeah, the X-Men. But what about Wolverine though? That's going to be the only thing anybody cares about. It's going to be the only thing they want to talk about. They're going to be like, okay, so who's playing him? And is it Hugh Jackman? If it's not Hugh Jackman, then why? We need to have a conversation about that. Hugh Jackman needs to come back. Because I'll be honest with you guys, man. Man, let me tell you, I'll be honest with you guys. There would be nothing I would love more than to see Hugh Jackman fighting alongside Tony Stark, or Hugh Jackman fighting against Tony Stark, or Captain America. Dude, that'd be the coolest thing. Oh my God, it'd be the coolest thing ever. All right, I'm getting so hyped just thinking about that. But here's the question. Here's the $1 million question. Let's say Wolverine gets rolled into the MCU, right? Which you will. And let's say Hugh Jackman comes back. Marvel is not going to continue what Fox did, right? Mostly because Fox only had 2 good movies with Wolverine and the X-Men. The first was Days of Future Past, and the second was Logan. And then everything else was just movies that were made that feature the X-Men. They're movies that exist. And so I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm when they announce this whole thing, how do they do his origin story? What's the origin story of Wolverine in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? And the more I thought about this, the more I thought back to the video that we did on the X-Men and rolling the X-Men over and so on and so forth. And I started thinking about the nature of Wolverine. Now here's a cool thing. In my mind, to kind of modify that theory to a degree, we can basically grab the origin of Wolverine and we can stem it all the way back to Hydra or S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, you could tie it in, you would say here's when he popped his claws for the first time and yada, 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 here's when he did all that stuff. But the stuff that people care about is the crossover, right? No one wants to see a Wolverine movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that doesn't feature anybody else. I don't want to see that. The cool thing would be the montage part, right? Where we jump through his history, kind of like they did in the Wolverine movie, except this one won't suck. And the whole thing is it'll be when he was in World War II and fought alongside Captain America. But it'd be kind of cool to see that from his perspective, or they reference Captain America or something like that. Because in the comics, he fought alongside Captain America for a little while. It'd be cool to have that. And you literally just kind of jump through that. The big question that people want to know, and here's the big thing that people want to see, how does Wolverine get his adamantium? Because at the end of the day, that's the only thing anybody ever really cares about. Here's what I would say. All right, here would be my origin for Wolverine. If we had to walk away from introducing the X-Men into the MCU, if we had to walk away from that video and we had to give us a different origin for Wolverine, here would be my idea in terms of how he got his adamantium. I would take it all the way back and basically say Howard Stark and Peggy Carter and all those guys are the ones responsible for Wolverine getting his adamantium. And here's the reason why. So basically the whole thing stems back to Captain America, right? Project Rebirth. Steve Rogers is gosh golly, I'm just a weak guy, but I really want to fight in a war that costs millions of lives because what could go wrong? And so he shows up, he's I really want to fight in World War II. So he's I don't like bullies, even though, I'm kind of a dick in the comics a little bit sometimes. So he goes in and he becomes Captain America. They basically inject him with steroids, blast him with some rays, and then he becomes Captain America. That was from the Honest Trailers video, actually. It was hilarious. It's like a weak guy named Steve Rogers becomes Captain America in the most American way possible. Steroids. It was hilarious. But anyway, so Steve Rogers becomes Captain America. All right, and then Abraham Erskine dies. So Abraham Erskine's gone. All right, so there's no more super soldier serum. Hence the whole basis behind the significance of Captain America is there will never be another version of him. Now, what we do is instead of doing a Marvel Comics where you had basically the CIA and Canada's Department H or Department K or whatever it was, working in a joint venture to create Weapon X, and then, or I guess Weapons Plus, and then in turn go through all that. Yeah, instead of doing all that stuff, instead we would just tie it all into S.H.I.E.L.D. We would say okay, so Captain America was was believed to have been dead. And once Peggy Carter stopped crying, and once she finally got it all together, then she was like, okay, we need to find a way to either make a new Captain America, or I'm sorry, find this Captain America, or make a new Captain America. But the fact that it was believed that he was dead, so the only alternative was to make a new one. And so what they did is they basically launched Weapons Plus under the banner of the SSR, the Strategic Science Reserve. Now the whole thing behind this is like Hydra was operating behind the scenes, and Hydra knew about it because they were kind of controlling S.H.I.E.L.D. from the inside, because Arnim Zola was living in a computer and nobody ever suspects computers of evil. And so because of that, like they were just kind of there in the background, and they were just like, okay, we're watching all this unfold. But Hydra chose not to do anything about it because Hydra could basically just co-opt the project and then turn it into their own personal super soldier if it worked. And so under the banner of the SSR, what you had is you had like Weapon 1 and Weapon 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, yada yada yada, so on and so forth. And all that basically runs up to Weapon X. Now we can tie Hydra into it because shortly after World War II was over, going into the Cold War, like Howard Stark was killed by the Winter Soldier. Basically Hydra orchestrated the assassination of Howard and Maria Stark in the Marvel Cinematic Universe by using Bucky Barnes as the Winter Soldier, so nobody would trace it back to Hydra inside of S.H.I.E.L.D. And so because of that, Peggy Carter eventually retires. Chester Phillips, Tommy Lee Jones, essentially, I guess he dies. I don't remember whatever happened to him. I mean, I know he dies. Like, I mean, he's not gonna live forever. He's not Nick Fury from the comics. So like he dies, retires, whatever. And so Hydra's basically running the show. And where the Strategic Scientific Reserve had the whole project going, once the SSR transitioned and became S.H.I.E.L.D., the projects continued on. And the projects kept going just like they always did. Now, one of the ways, this is one of the things that people will ask. They'll say, well, how come we never heard about it before? Why wasn't it ever referenced before? Well, the answer to that question comes out of Captain America, the Winter Soldier. When we have like the whole discussion between Steve Rogers and Nick Fury, when we end up finding out that Nick Fury had sent Black Widow alongside Steve Rogers at the beginning of the movie, where we had that amazing fight between Captain America and Batroc the Leaper, and like Black Widow was there to like gain information on Hydra, but like Captain America wasn't notified about it. And when he asked Nick Fury why, Nick Fury said, well, I'm compartmentalizing. We can literally throw that in there and just say it's one of like the zillions of projects Nick Fury had under his belt that nobody knew about. And when S.H.I.E.L.D. came crashing down, but it somehow managed to survive in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., even though nobody seems to know what's going on, despite the fact that like the world gets blown in half and like there's an international manhunt for all the members of S.H.I.E.L.D., yet somehow the Avengers and Captain America don't know. They're like the most oblivious superheroes ever. They're like, gee, I wonder what's in the newspaper today. Oh, S.H.I.E.L.D., nothing. Let's just turn the page and go to the next thing. No way this is S.H.I.E.L.D. in every newspaper talking about a manhunt. This is why the movies and the TV arm need to line up, because right now you're running into the comic book continuity equivalent of like the movies. Is basically what you're running into, continuity errors. But nonetheless, like you could literally say like it's one of the zillions of projects that he had going on behind the scenes and nobody ever knew about it. Nobody was aware of what it was going on. Even Wolverine himself didn't know what it was. And then eventually we end up having things that come out of that. But you could do all that kind of stuff. Like in Jessica Jones, you had Frank Simpson, basically Nuke. You could say like he was part of the Weapons Plus program. In the later days of it, maybe, or something along those lines. I don't quite know how you would make that work, because Frank Simpson is really, really new, whereas Wolverine would have to be old. It would have to be a project either done in like the 70s, the 80s, or the 90s. I mean, you could go with like the Ultimate Universe origin of Wolverine, but I don't think that was as cool as my idea. I like my idea better. So I feel like we should go with that, because like, I didn't make this video for no reason, Marvel. So like, that's my whole philosophy on this thing. I think it should be tied into S.H.I.E.L.D. because what it does is it takes S.H.I.E.L.D. away from being just like this, gosh golly, really good organization that only does great things because, Peggy Carter and Howard Stark formed it. And it turns into like this kind of nefarious organization where basically the whole Weapons Plus project amounted to like human experimentation. Some of it was like sanctioned, but like some of it wasn't. Like, Wolverine and like Sabretooth and whoever else, Maverick and Silver Fox, they were all part of like the original Team X. They were basically part of like the whole, Black Ops wet work team working for the CIA. And like S.H.I.E.L.D. just showed up and took them and just like threw them into the project and was like, okay, cool. Like adamantium, everybody gets it now. Oh my God, Wolverine broke out. Like that'd be the cool thing that would go on there. A lot of it was like swept under the rug. Maybe it was ignored. Maybe this is something that Tony Stark learns from his father, Howard Stark, and that leads into the whole thing of Wolverine. I don't know. There's a zillion ways that you could do it, but I feel like it should be stemmed from S.H.I.E.L.D. Like S.H.I.E.L.D. were the ones that created Wolverine. S.H.I.E.L.D. were the ones that like created Deadpool inadvertently, like indirectly. There's a zillion things that you could do with that. I'm curious to see what they do. I mean, from what I understand, we're a few years out, but still, like, I think that Wolverine is going to be the most anticipated character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe once like the X-Men are officially rolled in, because I don't know anybody who doesn't believe the Fox Sony deal is going to go through, or the Fox Disney deal is going to go through. I mean, it's Disney, for Christ's sakes, man. Those folks are magic. They can make anything happen. So like, I'm pretty sure it'll go through. And when it does, like, Wolverine will be the movie. That's the only thing anybody, I mean, they're gonna be interested in the X-Men, Fantastic Four, and so on and so forth, but none of the news about those groups will be as huge as the news about Wolverine, because people are gonna wanna know who's gonna cast him. They're going to wanna know like what the movie's gonna be about. I mean, I would say, if I'm gonna be honest, I would say that the Wolverine movie, when it comes out, like if it's a solo film, when it comes out, it'll have outsold everything. It'll outdo Black Panther. It might outdo the Avengers, I'm not sure. And it'll certainly outsell all the other movies, because it'll be the first time that we see someone, presumably that's not Hugh Jackman, playing the role of Wolverine in 17 years, and it's not run by Fox, it's run by Marvel. Their first outing with Wolverine, everybody's gonna wanna know what's up, because you know, it's Wolverine. He's the best he is at what he does, you know, and what he does is get rebooted all the time. With that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you all later. Peace.